Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video on Xiangqi opening theory. I'm very honored to have obtained the permission of Grandmaster Zhang, Qiang and Master Wengqing to do videos based on their series of books, the trilogy of Xiangqi opening books that is deemed as one of the best ever. As can be seen from the introduction before, prior to this board, both are accomplished Xiangqi experts and have made various major impacts on the Xiangqi scene for decades. So without further ado, let us begin today's board. Today I will be starting on the opening Tabia for the pawn opening, which is the second most commonly played Xiangqi opening in tournaments nowadays. So without further ado, by default, usually p7 plus 1 is played, and this is widely regarded as the default move, although p3 plus 1 will also be considered as the pawn opening. p1 plus 1 or p9 plus 1 are considered as unorthodox opening, and p9 plus 1 is called the nine-tailed tortoise opening, or p1 plus 1 is called the one-horned monster opening. And p5 plus 1, there is also a name for it. It's called the vanguard pawn opening, or Jixianfeng in Chinese, but this is seldom seen. And with p5 plus 1, we will usually imply that he will go for the central cannon with the central link horses to attack. But this would be able to prepare far in advance, and usually red will not gain that much from this opening. So p7 plus 1 is the default. And the most commonly used counter against the pawn opening is the thundering cannon. This is based on the Chinese name. The translation is based on Chinese name. There are two names. One would be Xiao Dang Tou, or the minor central cannon. But the other name is called Yi Shen Lei, which translated into English would be the sound of the thundering, the sound of thunder. So the early English translators back in the 1980s used the term thundering cannon, and I think it's very apt for this counter. Now with p7 plus 1, red will counter p2 equals to 3 and add pressure on this line. Now targeting the elephant in the process, and also discouraging red from playing h8 plus 7 to develop the horse as a red horse. But since black has already played c2 equals to 3, it will be almost impossible for black to play this green horse defense or the sandwich horse defense. The only defense that it can play will be the single horse defense, whereby h8 plus 7 will be used to protect the central pawn. So that is why red will usually counter with c2 equals to 5. Now c8 equals to 5 is also another major opening system, but it's not as popular as c2 equals to 5. Because with c2 equals to 5, let's say if c8 equals to 5 were played, black will still have a chance to attack apply a fork over here on this side of the board. So usually c2 equals to 5 is played, whereby red will immediately attack and target the central pawn. The tempo for such an attack is very clear and distinct, and it has been very popular among Xiangqi players, and this is perhaps the most commonly seen variation in the pawn versus thundering cannon opening system. And instead of playing h8 plus 7, usually black would play either e3 plus 5 or e7 plus 5 to fortify the central file. Now, this would appear to be awkward and inappropriate because red could simply capture the central pawn. But black's formation is still very stable, and because this is so early this is still in the infantile stages of the game, black would have plenty of time to fortify his defense, and the strength or power of this thundering cannon can still be realized. The potential of its attack stick can still be realized in this situation. Red will usually develop his right horse, neglecting any potential threats over here. Now this is a very important move to make, because Red would try to compensate for any attacks along this file by developing his right chariot over here. So would it be a good idea to play c5 equals to 4? No, this is also a commonly seen variation. Now in the book, Black would play a4 plus 5, Red would fortify his defenses. But because the cannon was now in a very awkward position, it would be the target of attack by Black. And Black would usually play the EI horse, forcing the cannon to retreat. And at this point in time, we can see that Black had already developed 3 of his major pieces, while Red only developed 1 major piece. So and Black would choose to develop and consolidate this pawn rank of his in this manner. And he would target the head pressure on Red's left flank very early in the game. Black can have plenty of time to develop his formation, and this is a very satisfactory position for Black. So that is why c5 plus 4 is not a good idea, and it's not so commonly seen in actual play nowadays. Now h2 plus 3, as mentioned before, will be an attempt by Red to develop his chariot and to gain some momentum. Black charges the pawn forward, determined to sound or give Red a test. Now this will be a very important move as a continuation of the thundering cannon. The foul chariot. And now Black will threaten to capture the elephant for the check and then capture the chariot. So usually Red will be forced to play the horse to the h file. One of the newer ways of playing this position would be to play c equals to 7. So these were the moves that were given in the book. Black would immediately take the chance to play r9 plus 1. And after a series of trades, we can see that Black would still have a very satisfactory position, and this chariot would have limited the development of this chariot. So Red will try to find compensation by developing this horse. And Red will continue. Black will protect the central pawn from any h4 plus 5 attack. And this would be a very calm and even situation. Black would continue to develop his material, and Black can be very satisfied with this situation. So c8 equals to 7 is another more commonly seen or another way of playing this position. So h8 plus 9, Red would develop or move the horse out of harm's way. And Black would develop his horse as an EI horse and elephant eye horse, because these two intersections are known as the elephant's eyes on the board. This position here will lead to many complicated positions, and it was very popular in the early in the 1980s or 1990s. Now this would also be the position of discussion for this board. There are 2 variations that were introduced in the book. The first would be r2 plus 4, the second would be r9 equals to 8, whereby Red would develop either one of the chariots. In variation A, r2 plus 4 would seem to be the natural move to make, whereby Red would try to dislodge this pawn. Now, Black would protect the pawn with h4 plus 3. Now this is a sound move, although it would seem that Black would Red could be attacking with c8 equals to 7 for pin. Now, at this point in time, it would not be a good idea to advance the pawn, thinking that the pawn can be protected, because once the pawn moved advanced, it will now be under the scope of the red horse. So Red will usually attack with c8 plus 4, forcing the pawn forward, and Red would actually have black would actually have helped red to develop his pieces. So as can be seen, at this point in time, black would only have developed two major pieces, one horse and one cannon, and pushed the pawn forward over here. Whereas red would have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, would have already developed 5 of his major pieces, and this pawn would seem to be vulnerable to capture. So the loss in tempo from moving this pawn would be very significant. So that is why p3 plus 1 is not a good idea. So h4 plus 3 is usually played and is considered a sound move. Red would usually play c5 plus 4 to deliver a check, and then play e7 plus 5. Now again, the focus on at this point in time would be the black pawn over here. So with e7 plus 5, what would black do? P3 plus equals to 2 would be the better choice, whereby the horse would move over here and threaten to advance and trap the red horse and cannon at the same time. Now, h3 plus 4 to try to capture the red cannon would not be a good idea, because red will retreat his cannon, prevent the horse from jumping over here, and just within a span of a few moves, although red will be attacking, although black will be attacking very aggressively, after offering a trade of the chariots, black would not have gained much for his efforts, and the underdevelopment of this flank would be a major issue, because once the chariot were able to move to this flank, black would be in deep trouble. So h3 plus 4 would not be a good idea. Neither would p3 equals to 4 be a good idea, because red will immediately take the chance to develop his chariot, choosing to dislodge the cannon. And at this point in time, because red had advanced the cannon, it would discourage black from developing r1 equals to 2, or red would simply play c equals to 5 to gain material. And as a result, this would be a pin on black's cannon rank. And after playing c8 plus 5, red will continue to play r8 plus r8 plus 6 to threaten the black horse. And there will be many possible tactical combinations for red to continue with, and black would be in some sort of trouble. So that is why p3 equals to 2 would be the advised move. Again, red would threaten to capture the pawn. Now this is the correct order of moves. Black must try to dislodge the cannon first, and he cannot be in a hurry to play p2 plus 1. If p2 plus 1 were played, red would, this would be a trade of material. If the pawn captured the cannon, red would use the horse to capture the black horse, and this horse would become a major threat immediately in the game. So at this time, if red tried to dislodge the cannon, again, this would red will simply move the cannon to safety, because if the horse captured the horse, the cannon would take revenge, and red would have the initiative. Neither would p2 equals to 1 be a good idea, because red would simply capture it, and black would not have gained much for his efforts, and the development of this horse would be an issue, because it cannot move h3 plus 2 or h3 plus 4 to attack, and h3 plus 5 would be a bit awkward, because the red could simply advance the central pawn. And after clearing away the edge pawn, if black played r1 equals to 2, red would simply play h9 plus 8, and the development of red's pieces would be much faster. So this would be a very complicated situation. There will be many more other possible variations. Now after h plus 7, traversing the cannon to the red file would be the recommended move for red. Now this will allow for red to control the situation better. Now, would it be a good idea for red to simply retreat his cannon to the riverbank to be protected by the central pawn? And so we know, because now black will be able to develop both horses and link the horses up for attack. So if in this type of situations, if black were able to develop his left flank, red will be in deep trouble. So that is why p5 c5 equals to 4 would be a good idea, because now the horse cannot play h7 plus 5, or this horse will be captured. Advancing the pawn, corner cannon. Again, black will take the opportunity to develop his pieces, protect the cannon, the trade of material. And at this point in time, red will refuse to trade material and instead move his chariot here. So if black captured the red chariot, red would have advanced the pawn and to gain a move in his initiative, while at the same time still threaten the black pawn. But black would not be without his advantages in the game. So a quick recap of this line: the pawn opening, or Angel's pawn, as translated by earlier translators, thundering cannon, and the central cannon variation, which is one of the most popular. Now c2 is equals to 5 is the default, whereby the cannon on the other opposite side of the board is moved in relation to the pawn. And black would usually counter by moving the elephant, e3 plus 5, h2 plus 3, and red will take the chance to develop his right flank. C h8 plus 9, and also c8 equals to 7. One of the newer ways of playing this position. c2 h2 plus 4 for the elephant eye horse, and to allow for development of the chariot. Chase the pawn away, and black will protect the pawn in this manner. Red will capture the central pawn, but to reduce the pawn deficit, solidify the central file, and it would be better for black to play b3 equals to 2. Again, red would offer a trade of material, and the correct order of moves will be h8 plus 7 to dislodge the cannon, and red will counter with c5 equals to 4, and after a few moves, offering of trades, we reach this situation. Red will still have a slight initiative, but black will have a very playable game. So this is variation A. In variation B, which is more commonly seen now, red will take the opportunity to develop his left flank, ignoring the threat of the pawn. So black will usually fortify his central file as a prophylactic measure, and since black did not play r1 equals to 2, red will go for the 5-6 cannons to discourage black from playing r1 equals to 4, and also to give this chariot an open line. Protecting the pawn, capturing a central pawn. Again, p3 equals to 2 is played to prevent the chariot from moving. Now this would slow down red's attack considerably, but red will simply take his time and play e7 plus 5 as a prophylactic measure to deny the cannon a target of attack, dislodging the central cannon. And red would usually again move his cannon c5 equals to 4, because if c5 equals to -2 were played, again as seen in the previous variation, black would take the opportunity to develop his horses, and once both horses are out, red will be in trouble. So c5 equals to 4, r9 equals to 8 to protect the cannon, and red would advance his chariot to the pawn rank for the pawn rank chariot to apply much pressure. Now, this would be a sound move to make. It would not be a good idea to try to play r2 plus 5 because this chariot will be will become a target for attack. Black will simply play r1 equals to 4 to control this file. Taking the cannon, and black will play p7 plus 1, trade of chariots, and black would now, after pinning the cannon and chariot to this pawn rank, black would be prepared to play c9 equals to 1 followed by c9 equals to 7 to attack the chariot, which would be captured. Now red would be in a dilemma because he would have to he would most likely have to lose material. So that is why c2 r2 plus 5 would not be a good idea. So r2 plus 6 is nice, but black will go for r1 equals to 4, and this will be another very subtle move by black, so that once p1 plus 1 is played, red cannot play p9 plus 1, or the pawns. This pawn will capture the red pawn, and the pawns will be linked, and red's left horse will have much trouble getting developed. So c8 equals to 9 to offer a trade of material would be not be a good idea, because red will simply accept the trade of material and play p9 plus 1 as mentioned earlier. And once p9 plus 1 is played, the chariot black would be faced with the threat of losing this pawn, and the situation will be favorable, will be in red's favor. So after p1 plus 1 is played, red will simply play p3 plus 1 to allow for development of this right horse. So this situation, both colors would be pestering each other. This would be a relatively tight situation whereby any minor mistake could lead to catastrophic results. So as a short recap, in variation 2, r9 equals to 8 is played. Red will attack in this manner, and instead of retreating, c5 equals to 4 is advocated. Red will protect the cannon. Black will protect the cannon, and red will advance the chariot. p1 plus 1 to prevent p9 plus 1, and red will continue with p3 plus 1. Now this is a very both colors can be satisfied with this situation. Red would have a slight initiative, but black would have a very playable game. So in high-level matches, as mentioned in the book, there has been a tendency for red to play r9 equals to 8, and which should result in very versatile and aggressive formations for both colors. So this will be the first part of the book, and I hope you like it, because as mentioned earlier, this trilogy of the books have been one of the best books on opening theory, and this is one of the opening endgame Tabia for the pawn opening. And I hope you enjoy the work I've been doing. If you like my work, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and I will be doing more videos in the near future.